I have my beautiful friend Maria here this morning, and we've been having a lot of deep discussions around sustainability in the workplace, being women in the workplace, whatever that looks like for you, while also thriving and keeping our vitality and our aliveness and our health really at this optimum level. And Maria and I are sisters, we are best friends, we are colleagues, and I'm really grateful that you are here with us to kind of share some wisdom nuggets for my community. So if you just would go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of get into the fun stuff.
Sounds good. Well, thank you, Lindsay. I'm so excited to be here and thank you for the opportunity. So, like you said, my name is Maria. I was born and raised in Russia. I've been living in the United States for the last 12 years. By profession, I am an industrial organizational psychologist. And for those who don't know, it's workplace psychology. So application of psychological concepts to the workplace and how to make the workplace more productive and effective for both the organizations and the employees. Right now, I left my corporate job some time ago. Yes, yes, it was time to leave. And now I'm doing consulting and coaching, and my company is called Sustainable Work. So that's a little bit about me. I want to say, I guess, explain where the idea for the summit came from. In the end of last year, it was 2020, COVID, a lot of other social movements coming up. And what I was seeing around me as a lot of stressed, burned out people, particularly from their jobs. And I thought to myself, okay, well, what do I know, right? I know work, I know workplace. So I thought I'll record a series of interviews with people asking them, how do we do this? How do we create or design work that is fulfilling and creates results, not just short term, but long term, right? Because that's what we want. We want long-term results. And I've invited a lot of people from different disciplines. I'm talking to researchers, to entrepreneurs like you, to consultants, coaches, to ask them from their point of view, from their expertise, what can we do? What strategies can we use to create sustainable work? And yeah, it's been pretty fun and amazing so far.
Yeah, so for those of you, some people may be tuning in that don't know what a summit is or what we are creating and what you have initiated with several experts in the field. So a summit is an online interview series, a conference. It's really just this collaborative effort on a topic where Maria, the expert, can really shine her light on her skill sets and call in other people and other experts in the field to really provide a lot of value and feedback. And the beautiful part of it being online is that you can tune in on your own time and in the comfort of your home, especially as Maria has said, like it's been a wild now year, going on over a year for most people. And I experienced it myself. And I don't know anyone that did not experience some sort of turmoil or stress or imbalance, because it's change, and change always makes us a little uneasy sometimes, but we get to embrace it. And then we get to create change through these tools that people like Maria and some of the other experts have. So what I really want to do is just kind of give value to our community here and just share and talk about your top 2 tips for really creating sustainability at work, which we all know we spend most of our time with the people that we work with usually, and most of our time in general. And so if we're out of balance and out of alignment in the workplace, it certainly can and likely does impact all other aspects of our life, our personal life, our family life. And so it is really important to me. And as you can see, both Maria and I, we have this fire in our belly to serve in a different way, to show up in a different way. We felt like we knew we had these gifts. And so we both set out for entrepreneurship, which is not always easy, but it is also so fulfilling at the same time. So I know that nourishment is a huge part of of really your work and your personal life. I mean, we both live it, and it's also a huge common thread in the work that we do. So do you want to talk about the importance of nourishment?
Absolutely. And, to begin with, I guess I'll say that my work particularly and how I relate to nourishment and to the world is through the body. Right. For me, it's always like my relationship with the body, how I talk to my body, how I think about my body is reflected in my life. So first and foremost, it's how do I nourish my body? What does it mean, right? And for each person, it's different. So for me, it's I need to move my body, and I love moving my body in various ways. I go horseback riding once a week. It's my passion. I'm in love with horses. I dance. I go to the gym. I go to Pilates. I go on long walks. So that's number one. Food. What kind of food am I eating? Am I sleeping enough? Right? You start with the basics, really, because feeling physically nourished is going to affect everything. It doesn't matter what kind of mindset you have. If physically you don't feel good, you're not going to feel good. You're not going to feel nourished. So start there. And, like you said, the common threads in both of our work, in your work and my work, and also in the summit, is nourishment, rest, and recovery. In whichever way it suits you. So a big part for me has been finding support with other women. So sisterhood, right? That's my relationship with you. Like, you're my sister. You're one of my biggest support systems. I can call you and cry, and you just give me a warm embrace with your words. And that's all throughout last year and this year. That has been so important in supporting my vitality.
I love it.
Yes.
I agree with all of it. And I do want to share, because Maria and I are both Virgos. We are both ambitious. We are very driven. And we are also very hard on ourselves historically. And, I used to overexert myself in all areas of my life, in my work, in my fitness, and food. It was like so restrictive. There was so much restrictiveness in so many aspects of my life. And the moment that I started to create the space, right, where you and I have both done a lot of work in that intuitive wisdom, right? Like that inner knowing, what does my body need? Do I want to go horseback riding today? Or will a good HIIT workout serve me and really just burn, 700 calories and just create that release? Some days, some weeks, like this week alone, I'm learning Qigong, and it's like very mild movement, and I haven't been to the gym, and I feel so good in the way that I'm nourishing myself. And I think as women, like, we get to take the pressure off. We get to not have everything fit in a box all of the time. And structure is important, but creating that fluidity and like that possibility within that structure, I think is really where I'm seeing myself, yourself, and other women thrive that really do have a big purpose in the world, or really do have a lot that they want to give to themselves, to their families, and to others. So I'm so glad that you touched on that.
Yes, absolutely. And I will just add to that, this is not just mine, your experience, it's supported by research. When I was in graduate school, my research was on the topic of recovery from work and how people, like activities that people participate in outside of work, relate to work engagement and physical health. And it does. Like, feeling recovered and resting and disconnecting, completely disengaging from work really pays off, right? Not only in terms of how you feel, but how productive and engaged you are at work. And, study over study, it's supported. Because, sometimes people think like, oh, I'm afraid to disengage from work, and like, I'm not going to be a good employee, right? I'm not going to be a good employee. I'm not productive, and it's so scary. But the truth is, the more present you can be in your life, the more present you can be in your rest and recovery time, and really nourish yourself and get those resources, internal resources restored. the more productive you can be at work.
Yeah. And it's like the research is there, and I've known that. And it's like I've read so many books, I've read so many studies, like I've seen other people operating in this way. And it's really until recently that I really started to own that, right? It's like it's so easy to say, like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And then next thing you know, we're working 10-hour days and not giving ourselves any breaks. And it's so funny because I started actually noting and journaling around my day, like when I gave myself this, when I wake up and I don't go to my devices and I give myself that time in the mornings, how does my day go versus when I automatically just go straight into work and I don't give myself breaks? Like, what does it look like when I create a 2-hour break in my day to go walk my dog, be out in nature, have a nice lunch with my husband versus, you know, booking my calendar through and through, being on calls and not giving myself breaks to even eat? And it is a direct correlation. And it's evident, it's obvious, of course, but we still do it to ourselves. So I've really had to create a lot of discipline in creating that space. And one thing I'm doing this weekend is I am going on a trip. Like, it's just a mini trip. We're using hotel points a couple hours away with my hubby, and we are doing a quarterly reflection from January through March, celebrating, having fun. There's a hotel with a water park inside, like at the pool. And I'm just like, yes. So I'm going to do some reflection. We're going to talk about things, and I'm going to plan my new quarter. And then I'm going to unplug and just have some fun and celebrate. And this is the first time that I'm doing this. I started in 2021, and I'm so excited about it because I know it's allowing for that reset that I did not allow myself to have for so many years. And I feel this is the most vitality that I felt, honestly, probably in my adult life. And I know it's because I'm actually allowing myself to create the space. And I'm working a lot less hours, but they are so focused and I am getting so much done. And I think people don't believe it. They don't believe that they can work a 4-hour day and accomplish what they could in an 8 or 10-hour day.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that's it's interesting. One of the speakers that I interviewed, she talked about work engagement versus workaholism. And so what you're describing, and what a lot of us experience, is workaholism, is you know, this constant desire to like perform. But that desire to perform isn't really related to productivity or engagement or anything like that. It actually leads to burnout.
Yeah. Oh, I
So
just got chills all over my body. Who here has not experienced burnout? I feel like especially if you're in our circle, like, right, we attract our people. And so there's a lot of ambitious and heart-centered women in this community, and we tend to overdo it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so that's like a very, very big piece, is nourishment. And I think there are two things there, right? If you are an entrepreneur or a manager, or you're an employee, and there is like responsibility on both parts. So if you are an entrepreneur, right, you get to set your own rules and follow them.
Yeah. Much easier said than done for me, by the way. I got to learn that. I got to learn that skill over a couple of years.
Yes, it's not easy, right? You got to change your mindset. It takes time. The second part is also, if you're a manager, same thing. You set these rules for yourself. You encourage your employees to do the same, and you model it. So it's not enough to say, don't respond to emails on Sunday and sending emails on Sundays to your employees. Like, no, that doesn't work that way. The thing is, like, I guess this interview is very, my most recent interview, it's really on the forefront of my mind. So I'll say something from that we all want to contribute. We all want to be good employees. We all want to be good people. And that desire hijacks, right, our desire to also rest and recover. So if you have a boss who says that, I don't want you to respond to emails on Saturdays and Sundays, but sends you an email on Sunday, you just want to be a good employee and you respond. So it's so crucial for leaders and managers to really model and be cautious of how they are interacting and what conditions they're creating for their employees. On the other hand, employees, right, also need to take personal responsibility for their own rest and recovery. Like you did for yourself, you're an entrepreneur, right? They also need to take responsibility for changing that mindset, and personal leadership in speaking to their manager if things don't work for them, right? Because the manager may not be aware, may not know, but it's that personal leadership piece where you can go and speak honestly and vulnerably without blaming anything on anyone, perhaps come with some solutions as how you want to change your workflow or workload or anything like that.
Yeah, what's coming up for me is because there are also stay-at-home moms. Like there are women here that they're here to build family. Like some are here to build work, some are here to build both. And it's the same. Like it is, how are you showing up? How are you nourishing yourself? Are you creating space? It shows up the same, whether, I mean, that is a job, right? That is a very important job. And what I found is when I was an employee, I knew that I knew when I became an entrepreneur that I was meant to be an entrepreneur. However, I was programmed to be an employee, and I got to teach myself how to turn on my entrepreneurial hat and to clock in and clock out, because if not, it was just my mind wouldn't stop and my ideas, and that also created burnout. So it's like the grass is not always greener, right? It still takes the control, the discipline, the mindset. It still takes that responsibility. And I've recognized that personal responsibility is a huge part of my why. It is a huge part of my journey. And there's nothing that Maria and I are going to say on here that's going to change you. It really starts with that discipline to say, yes, I want this for my life. I want to feel good. I want to feel good at work and whatever I do. And so with that, I want to transition briefly into sisterhood, and then you can share, a little bit more about your summit, and I'll drop the link in here. That's launching on Sunday. And really it's that community piece. I lone wolfed it a lot of my life. And I think when you are driven, you tend to feel alone, and you tend to be afraid to share your vulnerability and to share the challenging parts. And the reality is that life, we're meant to experience all spectrums of feelings as a human being. And my mentor the other day said this, like, if everything was easy, how boring would life be? Like, how boring would life be if everything was so easy? Everything came easily to you all the time. Like, it would actually be pretty boring, right? So when we think about it, that's what creates all of this, dynamic fun, and what creates our story. And the community piece has been critical. And I do feel very called to be surrounded by women in this way. So go ahead and share your wisdom there.
Yes, thank you. That's just warms my heart. Well, first of all, yes, that's also a part that I'm implementing in my coaching and consulting work, as taking, I have a program where we take the principles of sisterhood and we take them into the workplace, right? Because I think what I've learned is, and it also relates to leadership, that really effective leadership is about service and support. And what I've learned in the sisterhood circles that you and I have both been in is, first of all, to show up as myself, which also you said vulnerability. Vulnerability is so important for leadership. So I can show up as my full self. I can allow others to show up as their full selves and support them in that. And that is very central to the conversations that I'm having in the summit about that, we have this like perspective. There's like work, and then there is life. It's just like, that's where burnout comes from. It doesn't work that way. You're a whole human that's coming to work. And sometimes you have, I apologize, I have a call coming through. And sometimes you have a bad day, and sometimes you have a bad year, right? And it's kind of like learning, being able to support people in that way, and also being able to show up in that way and lean into that support, God, that just nourishes you so much. Coming back to the first piece, right? It nourishes you so much that now you can perform better, right? You can perform better because you know, like, no matter what, you'll be supported here. Whether it's your team or your organization, it really makes a very big difference. And if you're an entrepreneur, it's leaning into, support of other entrepreneurs, finding your sisters. And
Yeah.
you know yourself that us women, like, we have been, I think, by society taught to separate from each other, but
Oh,
we're
competitive comparison. Like, no matter how much we try to say we don't do it, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. She's already doing it. Or, oh my gosh, look at her. I want to be like that, but I will not, right? It's just, it's innate. It's like ingrained in us as women. And the more we can just latch onto each other,
yes,
the better. And like not making it wrong for somebody having an off moment or day, and not making yourself wrong. Like I would retreat until now when I was off and when I wasn't at my best, and that was a huge blind spot in my leadership. And so now it's like my 10% can change a life. My 20% can change a life. And it's like still showing up and in that scattered energy or in whatever is happening in that moment and shifting and knowing that that's part of the human experience, and tomorrow could be a completely different day. So but while still nourishing myself, right? Like maybe clearing some things off my calendar, right? Like using that intuitiveness of like, who needs me? How can I support? What will nourish me, right? It's like this delicate dance of all of these things that are all really interconnected. So I love this conversation. If you want to hear more, which I'm so excited for the interview series, because there's some people that I already know that are powerful leaders and extremely successful while also being of service, being loving, creating impact, and creating the income of their desires. And there's also some new faces. So is there anything you want to share about the interview series to wrap up? And I'll certainly share the link below. It does start on Sunday.
yeah, so it does start on Sunday. It's absolutely free. So you just go to the website, click on the link that Lindsay will provide, and sign up on the page. And then we're starting on Sunday. You'll receive links to the interviews. And it has been so fun. I learned a lot. I met so many amazing people. And so I just want to say, I think I mentioned it earlier, there's lots of people who are providing such a vast amount of like knowledge and expertise, and some of them are like coaches and consultants with years of experience. Some of them are researchers, some of them are entrepreneurs. Like Lindsay is obviously is a part of it, which I'm so excited to have you. And we talk about like different perspectives. There are tips that you can use if you're an employee, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a business owner, if you're, like myself, an organizational psychologist somewhere in the HR area, where you want to know the strategies in the whole organization. What can we implement so that we do create sustainable work? Because the truth is, right, it's happening. I think the shift is happening in the society, but also in the world of work. It doesn't work like control, top-down control doesn't work anymore. That's it. We're done with this. We're all burned out and tired. We don't want this.
No more silos. No more silos.
No.
Absolutely.
We want support. We want contribution. And that's another thing that's emerging in the summit. God, we just all want to contribute to something bigger than us. And yes, there's tips around that, how to engage with it, how to find your purpose, how to find your purpose if you're an employee, even if you're not like, this is not my life's work and I'm just like completely bought into this and I want to be here forever. Even if you're not at that place in a company, you can still find meaning in your work. And so there's plenty of actionable steps on how to do that.
I love it. I want to just share really quickly that I'm in this leadership program and I was nominated as captain for our smaller team. And there's a lot involved with that. And recently, one of the people in my group proposed doing a rotation. We have different captains, we have co-captains, we have co-captains for different parts of the program. and there was a proposal of rotation. And I was so like, I felt so much relief and felt so supported, and also felt so excited for other people to step into their leadership and to me to step into different roles that are actually a little bit stretchy for me. And it's reminding me of that piece. Like, I don't have to do it all. And like, I'm keeping people small by not being supported, and also offering support in that way that they can step into their leadership. So there's a lot there that I'm continuing to step into, and the journey never stops. So I'm very excited for this summit. I can't wait to learn more. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comments or send me a private message. And I'm also happy to share Maria's contact information for you as well, so you can be in touch with her. Thank you, beautiful, for doing this on a Friday. I so enjoyed it. It was very nourishing for me.
I'm glad. It was for me as well. So thank you so much.
Of course. Have a good Friday, everybody.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to Sustainable Work. I am here with my dear friend, Lindsay Martin Ellis. Hi, sister.
I'm so grateful to be here. Hello, hello, everybody. Hello, beautiful Maria.
Hi, Lindsay. So, Lindsay is a former environmental engineer, wife, dog mama, thought leader, owner of her women's wellness and empowerment company, Living Well by Lindsay, and leader with the disruptive beauty brand Beauty Counter. She's extremely passionate about sharing her transformational healing journey to empower other women to shine their inner beauty without compromising their health. Her life's work is devoted to empowering women to transform from the inside out using a soulful, magnetic, body-based approach to living. When she's not saving the environment, educating consumers about the lack of regulation in the personal care industry, advocating for more health protective laws, and empowering women to be their best selves, you can find her traveling the world with her husband, practicing yoga with friends, and snuggling with her rescue pup, Luna.
It makes me want to cry just hearing that from somebody else.
She's my friend? Like, what?
I'm like, that's me. Wow, beautiful. Thank you for reminding me of who I am.
That's radiant, beautiful, powerful you. So Lindsay is one of my best friends, my sister, my spiritual soul partner. I don't know what else to call you, but one of my biggest support systems. And I'm just so excited to have you here because, and I told you that, right, when I invited you to the summit, is that for me, when I think of you, you're like the living example of sustainability and living into your purpose and living your life to your fullest potential. So I'm just so happy to have you here to share your journey with us, to share your strategies, to share what is that you do that makes your life so fulfilled and exciting and beautiful.
Well, thank you. It has been quite the journey. So I'm just very honored to be here and share what's working for me. I've had a lot of experience of what did not work, right? And that all of that has led me to this point where I'm feeling, very empowered and creating that sustainable work life, which I think so many of us, I know so many of us, it's almost like people believe it's too good to be true, right? People believe that work can't be sustainable and fulfilling and just viable and beautiful and like you wake up wanting to do it every day, and it's totally possible. So I'm super grateful to be here and to learn from the other experts as well.
Oh, perfect. So yeah, why don't you tell us about your journey? Where were you and where are you now?
Ooh. Yeah, it's quite the journey. So my background is in environmental engineering. I was an environmental engineer for nearly 10 years. And throughout that process, I struggled a lot with women's hormonal health issues, and I was on a lot of medication. I went from doctor to doctor. My parents tried everything. I tried everything. I mean, you name it, I tried it. When it came to my health, when it came to my hormones, when it came to the physical representation of what my body was experiencing was in this like terrible cystic acne. And so during those years, you know, I think about my transformation, and like during some of the most like critical years of my childhood and my teens and my 20s, my confidence was just like non-existent. And I really doubted myself and my abilities because I tried so hard, and I could see other people that had almost like this effortless, like I would see them not really trying that hard, and maybe their health was, it seemed, at least from, you know, bird's eye view, that their health was thriving, and you know, they had clear skin, where I'm sitting here as a kid not enjoying myself. And that kind of perpetuated all of this transformation that I then began to experience. And so part of that was also my career, and I went to college at 17 and really was almost thrown into this like male dominated industry and this very like structured industry. And there were just so many things, that there were so many red flags. Even in college, it was like I knew in my heart that wasn't my call, my soul's calling. I knew in my heart when I was in school, my first career, as I continued to get more experience and real life experience, as I grew up, as I continued to surpass some of my male counterparts that were in their 60s, right? Like on the outside, I looked like I had it all together, but I was covering my face in makeup. I was suffering. My body was in pain, and I was miserable. I was miserable at my job. And actually, my now husband, I got engaged when I was 30. I'm now 34. And that honestly was the pivotal moment for me, when I recognized that I got to take my power back. I got to reclaim my health. I got to recognize that it's not just me, like I'm creating this partnership and eventually a family. And I just had this strong sense that like I am capable of doing whatever I want to do. I am capable of being fulfilled. I am capable of healing myself. And within 6 months, completely healed myself, was diagnosed with something called PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, healed all of my symptoms, and have been medication free ever since. And I think that was the first time in my life that I really truly understood that like that belief is all that matters. That belief and that inner knowing that like I know I can do this and nothing is going to stop me is really all that matters. And I discovered the company Beauty Counter that Maria mentioned. So we're a disruptive beauty brand. We're headquartered in Santa Monica. And really during that time, I started to look at my environment. I started to look at what am I consuming? What food am I consuming? What products am I using on my body? What relationships do I have? Like, what are my professional career choices? And I really started to look inward and recognize what wasn't serving me, and really what was creating like this toxic lifestyle for myself. And I got to look at the different areas of my life where I was out of alignment, and I slowly just started to shift it. And a lot of it had to do with the products, and honestly, that company it was like the catalyst of my healing journey. They're very mission based. There's a lot of powerful women where there's activism, but it's in a very heart centered way, where you know, we're coming from a place of love, right? We're not like this, you know, we're coming from a place of love where it's like that power and grace where people really listen. And I felt really connected to being a part of a movement. And that is where I started to notice like I have a story, and this company is doing big things, and it's allowing me to have a platform to speak my truth and to stand up for what I believe in. And then sure enough, 2 years later, I left corporate, and that is part of my full-time gig. I also am a transformation coach and use human design for that as a tool. And truly, I love empowering women, particularly all humans, but really feel connected to women and standing in their power, and just that vitality, which to me is like the aliveness and that exuberance that so many of us women, we shut down. And that's my story.
Yes, I already have so many questions. So one of the things you mentioned that during that time, even while you were in college, so you started college at 17 and then you got engaged when you were 30. So during the 13 years, you had red flags, you felt miserable, you knew you weren't going the right way. So what kept you going the wrong way?
Oh, that's so easy. Thinking that other people knew what I knew all along better than me.
Yeah.
Medical professionals, parents, elders, and it doesn't make anybody wrong. It's just, like when you're that age, there's still a lot, we don't really know who we are yet. And I didn't have that autonomy to be like, let me go research or like, let me feel into this. I didn't, like the way that society that we're raised in this like quick fix society, and that was the age where I just wanted a band-aid fix. Like I didn't care. I was like, give me whatever, I will do anything.
Mhm.
And that is what I recognize, like as I start, and my parents didn't know any better. So I'm seeing a shift in like our culture and our society where things are different. And right, like now I get to, when I do have children, like show up in a different way, right? Like I now have the tools because of that experience that my parents just didn't have, right? Like they thought they were trying to help me. So the biggest thing is like that inner wisdom, like, and actually taking action, right? Like knowing that it's there, but then doing something about it.
Mhm. Okay. So,
And being proactive. I think I want to say that I think what's coming to me is I waited until it was really bad, right? Like that's what we do. We wait till it's like, I can't take it anymore. I'm miserable at work. I have, right? And then it's like, my goal is, my life's work is like, no, you get to implement these practices and tools to create the sustainable life that you want and that you desire before it gets to that point. Cause it's a heck of a lot harder when you wait till it's that bad. Trust me, Maria and I both know.
okay, awesome. So, the other thing that you mentioned that I love, that you found this brand, right, Beauty Counter, and they have a mission, and they are a movement, and you're really connected to it. And the other thing, not only are you connected to the brand and what they are bringing out into the world, they also give you the autonomy to speak up, to speak your truth, and to share your message. And it's just, from having interviewed other speakers, that is really emerging as a theme, right? This having this purpose, if you're working for the company, being really aligned with it, but at the same time also having some kind of autonomy and bringing like your purpose, your mission into
Yeah.
fruition as well. And sounds like that's exactly the place that where you're at right now.
Yeah. And what I love is like one of the first things I do when I mentor there's a few men, but mostly women, women, as I ask what their why is, right? Like Simon Sinek, right? It all starts with why. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And everything is enrollment, everything is buying, right? Like everything is, do I want to trust this person? Do I want to love this person? Do I want to live with this person, right? And so when I think about that, it's like my reason for joining, like, is, I mean, I'm the only one who has my experience. So people get to tap into their why. And so many people don't dream. So many people don't allow themselves to even go there. And honestly, that's what sustains people. And that's why you're likely hearing that constant theme, because money doesn't matter, time freedom, flexibility. I mean, there's like, it doesn't matter if you have the most ideal boss. If you're not connected to your why, that's there's no way that can sustain anything that you do in the workplace. I wholeheartedly believe that.
Mhm. What is your why?
So I suffered from health issues for many years, which then really created this confidence and this power inside of me. And really, my vision is a world where women feel empowered and confident in their own skin. And I get to show women the way. And I feel so connected to that, is like just transforming your vitality and turning that into power. That is my why.
Yes, yes. Yes, thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. So, okay, we were at you're 30 years old and you shifted. You shifted into a different um, mindset and a different, like, I guess, frame of reference. Like, where were you coming from? You were coming from a different place and taking action from a different place. So what were your actions? What started, how did you start show up differently after that pivotal point?
Committed action, really just that unwavering faith. And I mean, it was like that responsibility. So personal responsibility is a huge part of my why. It's a huge part of my stand, is that we have the power, we hold the power. Nobody gets to take that away from us. Nobody gets to tell us you are going to be on medication your entire life, or you went to college for this. It's going to be so like you're never going to make this kind of money, or this is a stable career. So how dare you leave that, right? Like nobody gets to tell you what your dream vocation is and what is sustainable for you and what allows you to thrive. Nobody knows that but you. And so that is the commitment, was just that unwavering faith in every day, knowing that I became so relentless with like uncovering the truth that I didn't really know existed yet. And I took the pressure off. Like I just had such belief in what was possible, that it just became fun, and it became just like part of my way of being. And it really created so much energy inside of me. Like I don't know how to explain it. Does that resonate? It was just like the little engine that could. Like I just wanted to keep going, and I felt so connected to it.
Yeah, I think I can relate to it in terms of, because you explain your why, right? You explain your why, explain your stand. And I think when you truly connect to that place inside of you, like your motivation changes, right? Whereas before,
Yeah.
you said, and I've experienced plenty of that in my life, when you're relying on the external cues to show you the right way, you'll never really get anywhere, nowhere good. You get nowhere good.
Ah,
But this finding this internal drive for and to stand for what you really believe in, like then nothing can get in your way.
yeah, that deeply resonates. It's like there was a thought that came to mind, and now it's almost like this is what came to me. When you give your power away, it's so easy to be like, oh, that didn't work, and just like take a nap and just, be like, this didn't work, told you so. And it was like that defeated feeling. And that also contributed to my lack of aliveness and vitality and just being so exhausted.
Mhm.
And so it was a very different feeling when it was like, no, I get to be like, I'm responsible. This is my inner knowing, and I trust, and this is what I'm committed to. And it was just a very different way of showing up.
Mhm. Okay. So, um, in terms of your personal life, right? And how do you sustain yourself? Besides having that why, are there any other aspects of your life or strategies or actions that you implement that help you maintain that sustainable balance?
Oh, yes. This has probably been, I have recommitted and renegotiated what that looks like over the years. And if for the women that are watching, and I know that you and I can both relate to this. It's like we love the structure. And so what I've found is I get to have structure in my day. It's very important to me. However, I get to create chunks of space of just time and breaks and whatever that looks like in that moment. So I get to have chunks of time where I'm committed in focus action to my work before I touch my phone and before I start connecting, because I love to connect. I love my work. But what I find is when I do that too early, and this could be with anything, this can be with kids, right? Like we get to give ourselves that time, and that will look different for everyone. But for me as an entrepreneur, I get to write, I get to create content, I get to do the things in my business that bring me joy, that are outside of just building those relationships and connecting and serving. And that's been a huge one, is really not feeling like I need to be that person for everyone, not feeling like I need to like immediately respond to somebody or immediately go and help take care of my husband, like really allowing myself to align in that way. So I think the chunks of time, especially for women, of just creating that space is so critical. And it can be anything. Do I want to go to the beach in the middle of my workday? Do I just want to take a long walk with my puppy? Do I want to get a workout? Do I want to just read? Do I want to just go outside and maybe have a long lunch with my husband? Honestly, when I give that to myself, the amount of flow and creativity and focus and clarity, I have so many goosebumps in my work. The amount of connection and intimacy that I have when I do have coaching calls or when I am talking with a client, it is just exponential. And I think we are trained as a society to not allow ourselves to take that time and to feel lazy. I have those moments where I'm like, lazy, right? Like the conditioning comes through. And one of the biggest pieces I want to share in terms of sustainability is that our conditioning never goes away. We've been at it for a long time. And the moment that I realized that I get to notice, then shift, and then move on and not beat myself up, and to not say, why is this still showing up? I've been working at this for 10 years. That has been so revolutionary for me, because that's part of life. That's part of the human experience. And that's where I find I have the most sustainable work days, is when I'm like, okay, Lindsay, like I laugh at myself. Sometimes I have conversations where I'm like, not today. And I sometimes name my little, like the shadow parts of myself, like Doubtful Debbie, I get some funny names in there and I just laugh. And it just, again, takes that pressure off.
Yeah, and it's, it sounds kind of like backwards, but it's true. Your mind thinks it's gonna get you productive by shaming you and making you do this thing this way, which is really your conditioning. But ultimately, the truth is, if you really want to be productive and you really want to be engaged and you really want to create good quality work, you need to create structure, like you said, that supports you, the structure that allows you to have the nourishment from whatever activities that nourish you. Is it a walk? Is it a bike ride? Is it a dancing? Anything, so it's
Yeah.
that, yeah.
I really want to drive that home, because I know, especially those who are listening to this, and this goes for everybody, like when you're a driven individual, we can be really hard. We're our own worst critics, and we can be very tough on ourselves. And something that worked yesterday may not work today. And it's like allowing yourself to just have fun with it. And sometimes I dance to my favorite song, like my favorite Beyonce song, for my workout. Sometimes I call Maria and we do a Zoom workout together online because I want connection, or maybe I'm wanting accountability, and it's fun, and it can be fluid. So I love the chunking of time of like, this is the time that actually really works for me for this.
Mm-hmm.
And then seeing what comes up, because the spontaneity and the fun and the flow is actually what creates more focus and clarity and connection. And I think that's probably been one of the most transformative pieces for me in terms of sustainability, is that it doesn't need to look the same way every day, and we feel that pressure often.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, thank you for addressing that. And there is another piece that I want to speak to. I know that is true for me, and I assume it's true for you because we're in a lot of different circles together. But I think what has been a really nourishing piece to me in the last year and a half, since you and I met, is the piece around other women around you, the sisterhood, right? The women supporting women in a space where, we can call each other and cry and just be our most like weakest air quotes because it's not true, right? Just go to the bottom of our feelings and our dirt and our shadows and feel really accepted in it. Where there are women around you that don't try to change you, don't try to give you advice, unless you ask for it, but just really like reflect your light to you, just really are there with you. And for me, I think that has been one of the most transformative and nourishing experiences. And I keep on, finding new friends and finding spaces where I can have that, because that really gives me a lot of energy so that I can sustain my work further.
Absolutely. Imagine if the world operated in that way.
Yes.
I know our worlds operate that way, but the ripple of that is huge. Absolutely.
Yeah. So you said that part of your work is coaching women, transformational coaching. So what is that? What is your focus within that?
Yeah, so it's kind of new. So this is what's fun is I love, and so for those of you who are perhaps in a work situation that, I'm sure many of you that are tuning in are in all different phases of what sustainable work looks like. Like, this is not sustainable. I'm going a completely different route. Or like perhaps you're in a position where you get to shift what that looks like. And so I feel really good. What I loved is I don't know, of course I don't know because that's not my journey. If Beauty Counter hadn't entered my life, I don't know if I would have left my corporate position at all, truly, or when I did. I had no idea what I would do. I had no idea how to be a coach. I didn't even know I wanted to be a coach. I I don't know if I would have had the confidence and the courage to really, like what you're doing, Maria, like to start your own business like that is huge. And so I just want to share that, like, just know that there are options. There's literally an option for everyone with whatever that movement or mission or purpose or vocation looks like for you in the workplace. And so I'm really grateful for that. And what I found is there is a lot of parts of entrepreneurship that do not bring me joy and do not serve me. And there are a ton that I love. And what I love is this right here. I love speaking. I love teaching. I love coaching. I love mentoring. And that is what brings me joy. And so my journey is around transformation. So I've lived it. And now the women that I'm calling in that are asking for my help, it just kind of started where more women were like, hey, I want to do this. Like either Beauty Counter team members who wanted to go deeper or just other people that I met along the way. And I got certified in human design, which is really it's just another tool in your tool belt to really allow you to help connect better, to really understand yourself a little bit more, just provide additional tools to really have that inner knowing and that affirming feeling of like, I know who I am. And so it's really this energetic blueprint of your soul, of who you are. And I felt such relief when I discovered human design that I wanted to leverage that tool for other people. So really the transformation coaching is back again to that inner wisdom. Like, who are you? Why are you here? And just really going from that place of, understanding your energetic blueprint, understanding where you've been, where you are, and where you're headed, and really just allowing that transformation to unfold for women. So I'm really excited because it's evolving and it's shifting, and I'm just kind of having fun with it. And I know what I love now, and that is part of the sustainable work. I love this tool that I would love to share, and I can see if I can share it as a resource, but there's this quadrants, right? Where it's like, what do I love and what am I really good at? What do I like and what am I good at? What do I not like and what am I good at? And then what do I not like and what am I not good at? Right. And so I got to physically see what is not serving me like over here and like what really brings me joy. And so my business gets to evolve, right? Because that is also what's sustainable. If you're doing all of these things and not delegating and not outsourcing and not asking for support and not doing the things that light you up, that's not sustainable. So now I get to really tap into my gifts and what I love so that it can keep me going.
Okay, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And I just want to say, you know, I can totally see how even myself looking at you and the way you live your life, it's like looking like, I want a piece of that. Teach me how. And I know there's also, you know, people in our circle who feel the same way and who follow you and ask for your guidance. So yeah.
Well, thank you. And I just want to share, like I was sharing with Maria earlier, and vulnerability is a huge part of leadership. And I was in massive breakdown the last couple of days, and it doesn't go away. And so like that is also part of my story, is like we all get to stop wearing the mask and acting like it's all perfect and everything's great all the time. Like, we are humans, things break down, technology, relationships, you know, like having a bad day, sometimes it just happens. And then we get to shift, right? Like, we get to not stay there, right? We get to stand in our power and we get to shift it. And that is what I am here to share, because I don't want people to think that I have it all figured out. I don't. And I know you know that, and you don't have it all figured out. And that's what we're here to teach, is like, these are tools. Here's the buffet table, and pick and choose, try it on and see what works for you. And then latch onto it when it does feel good. You're like, that's my thing. Great. Now you know.
Yeah, totally. And thank you for sharing that, because I wish, you know, I wish we started the recording like from the first minute when we just started talking, because our conversation was like, I was like, I'm a mess today, but this is my third interview. And you're like, I had a breakdown for the last 3 days. So that's the reality of it, right?
And today's been beautiful for me. And yesterday was not beautiful at all. And that's the beauty of it. We get to be like, okay, what did I learn here? Now that I'm out of it, now that I'm out of having a tantrum, what did I learn? What do I get to shift? And, you know, like, I sometimes give myself time limits. Like, okay, I'm having a moment, and I will sometimes set a timer, Maria. Here's my moment.
That yesterday.
I'm in timeout. Great. I'm back. And like, we get to give that to ourselves. We get to cry. We get to like scream into a pillow, right? It helps, whatever that is. We get to do a workout where we can do boxing or whatever it is for that release. So yeah, that's definitely part of my transformation right now, is it's not sustainable to wear a mask and to pretend like it's perfect all the time, because guess what? You will never, you will never be able to achieve perfection. And it will be so exhausting trying to keep that perception up of what people are, you know, what people are experiencing of you, for sure. I'm so glad that came up.
Yes,
You get to take the pressure off.
It's taking the pressure off. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, the other part, you know, that's also the sustainability and the part about connecting to your inner truth. Also should have recorded that. But, you know, before we started the call, Lindsay and I, we read a prayer. We did a little grounding meditation to just get connected to that place, right? Because maybe I didn't have a good day, and maybe I was crying 10 minutes before the call. But then we got here, we took an action to get grounded to what's important, and you just keep going.
Yeah. And it was so beautiful. I'm like, I mean, I really strive to set intentions and ground before I accomplish, like before I perform a task or before I get on a call, but it doesn't always happen. And that is so key. Like, just to set the intention of whatever you're doing, whether it's taking your dog for a walk or going to the park with your child or starting a really important task for your job. I mean, that connection of like why you're doing it will allow you to be so much more present. And that also is, I think, what creates the sustainability, because it's the presence, because we don't allow ourselves to give ourselves 100% of the time, right? We have our head in all these different things. And when you do ground and set that intention, it reminds you.
Yeah,
There's a lot of wisdom in that, for sure.
absolutely. So, you know, I know that you are dedicated to serving women and empowering women, and so am I. So, one of the things I want to ask you is, what do you see as the biggest obstacles for women and their work, for women within their work?
Favorite question. Make sure you opt into my free guide if you feel this. So my journey is around hormone imbalance, and I feel very strongly and passionate about women, particularly in the way that our hormones function and the way that our hormones cycle compared to our male counterparts. And so men's hormones cycle every 24 hours. So beautiful. We have a 24-hour day. We have the sunrise and the sunset. We have the 8-hour workday. And the masculine way is to be able to perform the same tasks every single day over and over again. And for women, our cycles follow the lunar cycle every 28 days. And there's four cycles within that 28-day cycle. And they're all different and they all serve a different purpose. And the moment that I started to understand my body's wisdom and understand my hormones and what were happening with my hormones, my estrogen, my progesterone, and so on, the way that I showed up in my work was different. The way that I showed up in my workouts, the way that I showed up in my relationships. And I started to harness my body's wisdom, and that really helped me with my energy. It really helped me to not have energy leaks and to burn out, because I wasn't doing things just because this is what I was told I was meant to do every day. I was really listening more.
So yeah, can you speak a little bit more about that? What are those 4 phases and how do they affect our ability to perform or be?
Yeah, absolutely. So our follicular phase, I'll start with spring since we're in spring equinox. You can think of your follicular phase like springtime. And that is really, it's after your cycle, and just think of like spring. I love to compare it to the seasons because it makes it really easy. It's like almost like this childlike energy. There's a lot of room for spontaneity. There's a lot of room for connection. There's a lot of energy that is in this, like, it's like this bouncy energy. So it's a beautiful time to try something new in your business, to start a new creative project, to meet new people, and to like put yourself outside of that comfort zone. Like your body actually supports yourself in the work. I'm going to use all of the examples in the workplace since that's what we're talking about. So just think like maybe there's like some like networking Zoom event that you've been really wanting to try, but you've been really nervous about it. That would be the time that your body actually really supports that energy and allows you to like actually take the plunge to show up as your authentic self. The next one is ovulation phase. And so that is where everything is at its peak. All of our hormones are at their peak. And in my guide, there's more information, but generally just let's say that they're about a week long. So in ovulation, this is when you have the most energy. So if you can stack your days, you can be on back-to-back calls. This is where I do most of my coaching. This is where I know I can give myself more space to work. I can start earlier, I can end later. And this is when I really have a lot of sustainable energy for projects, for really like getting into it and really like knocking out some work, creating content, like batching content, and really connecting with people. And again, that's summer, right? Like summer, it's beautiful weather. Yes, it's beautiful weather. And it's just like this beautiful, vibrant, like networking time where you're really meant to be. Think daylight, right? Like think like that beautiful, just summer light, and just connecting with other people and having the most energy. And then after that is our luteal phase. And so this is the fall phase. So this is when, again, it's like getting into hibernation. This is when women tend to have PMS. PMS is common, but it is actually not normal. And so if you are experiencing PMS, it's just that you're out of alignment with your cycle and probably doing too much. Like this is like, think a bear starts to get prepared for hibernation. Think about with your business, really going inward, not stacking your days with all of these connections, like allowing yourself to maybe do some like analytical tasks, shut your door, have longer periods where you're just like really focusing and looking at maybe like analytics for your business or finances. Maybe this is when you do like bookkeeping or taxes, or really just, you can also write content during this time. And then last is menstrual. And this is really that fallow period. This is the fertile void. This is winter. And really during this time is you get to take breaks. I mean, I take so many breaks off. My team knows that I am not like, basically once I'm on my menstrual period, I take the first 3 days like completely off. I restructure my calendar. I have everything set in stone around my cycle. And so sometimes that can obviously change energetically sometimes, but for the most part, it's pretty spot on. And it's just a beautiful time to like rest and to really, it's a very intuitive time. So this is a time where you can really start to plan, like dream, start to goal set, maybe start to be like, what would be really fun for my business? And just like allow yourself that celebration and allow yourself to really take that pause to take a look at the previous 3 weeks, see what's working, see what's not working. It's really just that reset before that like initiating follicular phase. And what I do want to say is if you do not currently have a menstrual cycle, it's just follow the lunar cycle. It's very simple. Generally, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, or as women, we align with the lunar energy. And so that's likely what your cycle is on. So you can just follow that and keep it really simple.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing this guide. I'm definitely going to try it because I have never really made it intentional to try to structure my work that way. But now that I have more knowledge about it, I definitely will give it a try. I did notice, however, that definitely my energy is very cyclical. There are times within a month that I have tons of energy and I can do whatever, and then there are breakdowns. Like I have these breakdowns, and I'm gonna try your approach and see if it can take care of it, so that I don't have background breakdowns when I'm intentional about structuring my work around this cyclical feminine.
And can I just share, like, so I'm on my luteal phase right now, about to start menstruation. And so there's things like, this is a great example, right? Like there is no 100% all of the time, right? Like things come up. This is how the schedule worked. It's really meant to be like, where can I be conscious and where can I create that space in my calendar? So like giving myself time to nurture myself earlier in the day and not being on back to back calls before this, like creating the space for that. And then also with the guide, I just want to share, especially for the Maria and Lindsay's of the world, like you don't have to do it all right away. So pick like one task for your business, one area of your life. Personally, I actually started with how I moved my body because I knew that I was overexerting myself, and that was an area of my life that I wanted to change up. And so the guide is beautiful because it talks about how to show up in relationships, how to show up in movement, in food. There's foods that really help sustain your energy too, the workplace, like again, like the time to actually go on a blind date or try a new date spot would be follicular, right? And so you'll start to see patterns where I just don't want people to like feel like it needs to be forced, because again, that's the masculine way. So this is just like play with it and have fun and see kind of what speaks to you on the guide of what you perhaps want to start. I've been at this for a few years and I'm just now getting to that point of like, all right, I've got my flow. I get it now.
Yes, but I love it. It actually feels really good, like to even giving myself the permission to try that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you'll have my contact info, everyone, so you can always send me questions if they come up.
Great. So, okay, I want to ask you another question. So, what is your biggest advice to the women on the path of entrepreneurship?
Ooh. Oh my goodness. The biggest piece of advice: to definitely trust yourself and to really stand in your power, because as women, we play small and we will hide and we will tell ourselves that it's not the right time, or who am I to do this? Or look at this beautiful woman. How could I ever do what she's doing? She's already doing it. And just let it go. Like, trust the decision that you made and stay in that power, and stop comparing yourself to what everyone else is doing, because this is something that my business coach taught me and it deeply resonated. And it was, to a fourth grader, third grader is, I said it wrong. To a third grader, fourth grader is queen. And what that means is that there is always somebody who is one grade behind you, who is like your unanswered prayer to them. And you can help them. You can save their life. You can help them find sustainable work and to find that vitality and to like come home to themselves. And that is more relatable than finding the 10th grader who's up here, who's way beyond. And so there's always going to be an audience. There's always going to be people that want what you have, that want to hear your story, and that want your help. And so don't talk yourself out of it if you see other people who are perhaps doing something similar, because as women, we definitely tend to do that.
Wow, thank you for saying that. First of all, I think if I was more tech savvy while you were saying that, I would love to play a soundtrack, Let It Go from Frozen. Because like the lyrics, and the message is completely on point, and I agree with you. And I just also wanted to share also my recent experience with this, right? Leaving my corporate job and starting on this journey of consulting and coaching. And as you know, I have discovered through a process that my passion really is to empower women. So and it had me at a very like interesting and vulnerable point where I was like, well, but I already set out to do this. How do I go there? And it's, to the idea that like it doesn't have to be perfect. When I've realized that what I really stand for is like loving my body and helping other women to release trauma from their bodies so that they can be their full selves. Because I mean, that's my life story, right? You shared yours. Yours was around hormonal imbalance and issues, and how by overcoming all of those difficulties and challenges, you came out stronger on the other side. So now you can teach others. Mine surrounded, a lot about body image and hating my body. And I just remember that feeling of just like despair that I had when I used to hate my body. And also how liberated and free I feel now when I love it. And when, when I had that insight or realization that this is the work I'm here to do, I was like, no one wants that. Like, who would want that? And I started telling other women. And then, yes, that was the reaction of the others. Like, I want that. I need that. So I guess what I'm trying to say in connection with what you just said, like, you don't know what other people want or need until you offer.
And I'm sorry, but what woman do you know that hasn't hated her body at some point in her life? Like, that is also part of my journey too, is like that, the mask and like the judgment and the beating ourselves up. I mean, there's so many common threads for women particularly, and there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack. And like, even with consulting and sustainable work, right? Like, that's a mechanism. Beauty counter is a mechanism, like human design is a mechanism, and our transformation and our stand and why we're here doesn't change, but we get to like see how that evolves. And it can truly part of my journey is also around self-image. A huge part of that is around self-image and body image in the world of empowerment. And it's not my main pillar, but absolutely I talk about it. Absolutely, I'm a stand for that. And that's what's cool, right? Is like we all get to kind of work together and lean on each other. And you get to lean on me for something. I get to have you come in as an expert around that because it's not my specialty, but it's something I've struggled with. And, we all get to learn from you. So that is the beauty of this work. I absolutely love it.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Lindsay. Okay, so you've told us about your gift. That's very exciting. And yeah, unfortunately, the time has run out. Like, I can talk
Time
to you
flies.
forever. Yeah, so how can people find you if they want to work with you, whether it's through Beauty Counter or just get your coaching, get your help, perhaps the human design assessment, which is actually a really cool tool that also Lindsay introduced me to, that also helped me understand myself better. Definitely, I was like, oh, this makes sense. Like, yes, I'm not gonna fight this anymore. This totally makes sense. So
Yeah.
how can they find you?
Funny, I've been doing so many human design readings this week, and more than I actually ever have, and it just aligned that way. And I'm having, and again, like so many breakthroughs around, oh my gosh, right? And it, like, same thing, like the same themes that come up, and that's what makes it fun. But absolutely, so you can find me on my email address, which is Lindsay@livingwellbylindsay.com, and it's spelled Lindsay. I'm sure Maria will drop that below. And my business page on Facebook is Living Well by Lindsay. And there you'd be able to send me a Facebook note or an email, and I can connect you in my Facebook group. I have a private Facebook community that is all women, and we're all just here to really find what lights us up and to like provide healthier lifestyle interventions and just be in community. It's a very safe space. And that's really where you can find me, is in that Facebook group and through email.
Perfect. Thank you, Lindsay. And so before we complete, I have a question for you
Oh,
that's
goodness.
to ask because I was having so much fun.
Okay, what is it? I don't know.
How do you define sustainable work?
Oh yeah, I remember you told me you were going to ask that, and I was like, I don't know if I know the answer. We'll just be intuitive here. Sustainable work. Whew. I mean, we talked about it. And okay, how do I define sustainable work? Sustainable work to me is really co-creating in your life to call in a vocation that really provides this life force energy that you just want to show up every day. You want to be in that committed, aligned action. Like, you want to serve, you want to show up, even when it's hard, even when you don't want to, even when you're having a breakdown or you're feeling like you're a mess. And the vocation, sustainable work, it could be being a mom, it could be driving a school bus, it could be an entrepreneur. It doesn't matter what it is, but you really just get to feel alive. Like, it gets, sustainable work is that feeling alive in your work every single day. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, it resonates so much. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
I love you.
I love you too.
Beautiful. Thank
Bye.
you so much for having me.
Oh, yes.
Bye, everybody. Reach out if you have questions.